So I walked into Manchester City as a 17-year-old. Now, I was looking for something, and what I was looking for was this. 4 years earlier, I was on a milk round. I was 13, it was Christmas time, and it was the 21st of December, Friday night, 1973. And what happened was the phone went, and the man in charge of the milk round, called Eddie Spencer, said, "Vinny, you knew my brother Simon, didn't you?" Well, Simon worked on the milk rounders. He said he'd just been killed outright, but it was his birthday. And he bought a 250 Suzuki, too fast, killed him on the first road. Now, that event shook my life, and in many ways my life was sort of flying off centre. If I can show you this piece of clay, it was sort of doing its own thing, just spinning, but not going anywhere. And I started to search after that, because I wanted to know what happens when I leave the world, and I want to know what happens. Can I be sure of heaven? I wasn't sure, and when I went to church it was in Latin. I don't know any Latin whatsoever, so I'm the foggiest, and even then, way back when I was 13, I was searching for something. So when I went to Man City, I was searching for something to really fulfil my life, and I thought, football's the thing, because I'm into footy. So I walked into Man City, and for you people who know a bit about footy, the first man who spoke to me was number 10 for England, Mick Shannon. And the other people who spoke to us were people like Asa Hartford, captain of Scotland. There were some big noises in football, Malcolm Allison, Tony Buck, Colin Bale. They were all at Man City. But I was searching, you see, and I didn't get taken on at Man City. But what it taught me at Man City is that though my life was off centre, I didn't really know where it was going. When I was searching, the thing I searched for, and I got near, I realised that was also empty. So in many ways I came away thinking, I've not been taken on as a pro footballer, but my life is empty. And what triggered it was Simon's death, because when Simon died, I wanted to know where he'd gone. I knew where his physical body was, it was down the road in a cold place, but I needed to know where he'd gone, and that really got me thinking. Anyway, I passed some exam at the same time, and I went to this holiday camp to study sports in Cheshire. But in my family, Angela, who was my eldest sister, had been to a college in Liverpool, and she'd become a Christian. And she came back to all her brothers and sisters, and she said she'd become a Christian. We thought she'd lost her head. And I well remember my Auntie Josie saying to her, "Angela, if you don't give up this newfound religion, we will disown you." That's what they told her. She was only about 19 years of age. Well, I got talking to them, they spent time with me, and then I had another sister, still have, called Philomena. And if any of you have been to the Leeds LGI physio department, she runs it, or she has done for the last many years. And Philomena had become a Christian through talking to Angela. So their lives got on centre. But mine was still spinning off. I used to steal on Thursdays, because David, my brother, got paid on Wednesday, and they didn't want to arrive too early. Bit of a dim thing to do if you're a thief, isn't it? And I used to fall out, and sometimes my temper would go and I'd lose my temper badly. So I knew I'd done wrong in my life, and I used to steal just on the quiet. I used the bad language, but only on the quiet, because I wanted people to think good of me. So I was doing well in soccer. Inside there was something happening called, "Vinny, you want some answers about life?" And then I'd been to this big club at Manchester City, and I'd seen these lives, and I thought, no, that's not right. Anyway, I thought, this is what I thought, that if I was good, or I had to be good, for God to accept me. And that was my fatal mistake, because that is totally wrong. Because I was trying to be good. I tried not to swear and things. In other words, I was trying to get my own life on the centre. And then I went to this youth group on a Sunday night. I was made it to the grand old age of 19. It was a Sunday night. I'd been in this college, and a man called Lester said, "Vinny, do you want to come to a youth group?" And I walked into this youth group, and there was about 30 young people all singing, and I thought, they don't sing like this in my church, you know, in the one that speaks Latin. So I thought, what have they got, these people? But I don't want to be unkind, but that meeting totally put me off Christianity. Alright? They all started making funny noises, and a fella fell on the floor, and I thought, these guys are weirdos. Quick, out of here. So I said to man Bob who's in charge, I said, Bob, it's Sunday night and I've got to ring my mum. I haven't rang my mum for weeks. But I told them a porcupine and I got out of there. And I walked up Fernhead Lane. I remember walking up the lane, Sunday night, and I thought, everybody on this campus, all these guys who are good at sports, they're not worrying about is there a God. So forget about it, Vinny, just go back and join them. So I thought, right, it's now about 9:45 Sunday night. So I thought, Sunday night they'll be in the gym all playing basketball. And as I went to the gym, the lights weren't on. So before I got there, I knew it was black and empty. And I thought, what do I do now? I said, where is everybody? Somebody said, they've gone on a pub crawl, Vinny. So I went back to my room, right? And I sat on the edge of my bed and I began to think about what happened in that youth meeting. Now, in my head, I thought that was Jesus Christ stuff. So I thought, no, I don't like that. I don't want that. So I walked up that lane thinking, no, just be normal, get on with your life. But when I got to my room, which was room 24, hostel 6, I sat on the edge of my bed and I began to think about my life and I thought, God is miles away. Where is this God? And I thought I'd try and say a prayer. I'm sat on the edge of my bed, I'm 19, it's a November night, it's dark, it's 10 o'clock. And I said, God, and not, it was like the ceiling and the sky was brass, I couldn't get through. I didn't know what to do and I began to think of how I've lived, and all of a sudden I got worried about how I'd lived. In those moments, my life was to come on centre. God was going to take something which was very ordinary called clay and do all praise to him and do something very special in that room, right? So I wanted my life to change, and I wanted peace, and I wanted hope, and I wanted meaning, and I wanted purpose. And I remember I just shouted out, not even loud, God, if you're here and you can forgive me, do it. And I just threw myself on, well, I thought there was nobody with me, I just threw myself on this invisible, whatever it was. And do you know what happened? Right through the ceiling came this phenomenal peace, and it just came into my life. And it was as though I was taken up and put into this invisible person, Jesus, and then all of his life came into my life. And I thought, I'm forgiven. And that was the night I got born again. In other words, Jesus took something very ordinary, ordinary clay, and made something of it like you do with a pot. When you're a potter, you make ordinary clay into something special. And for a few weeks and months, I thought, well, how can God forgive me? I've never seen him, but how does he do it? And a man sent me a book, and he talked about the cross of Jesus. And he explained that when Jesus was hanging on the cross, he was taking my punishment, he was taking the barrier which would separate me from God forever. And when I asked him to come and live in my life, that barrier all went. And my life changed. And I knew I stopped swearing. Things just changed. And we had a reunion of that college 40 years later. And one guy on the course called John Dalloway had become a Christian. And he came to see me. We're in the same football team today, in that for 3 years. And he said, Vinny, he said, when you became a Christian, we all knew. I never felt they did. He said, we all knew in the team that you were a Christian. Now, why am I telling you that, folks? You see, in this room there's an invisible line. And some are on one side and some are on the other. And I was once on the wrong side of the line. But that night, November 1979, God took something ordinary, clay, me, and changed my life. Now, yesterday I came across from Ireland on a ship. You've got 2.5 hours to talk to people about anything you want, because they're all totally bored wanting the journey to end.
often as if I got something.
And I was on the ship on the ferry coming into Kenwrighton, and I spoke to one man, and he was just, no, I'm not interested. All right, and I talked to another man called Duncan, who was from Hamilton, and he said, I want to know why there's so much aggro in the world. And he mentioned the troubles in Northern Ireland. And I said, well, Duncan, it's because God hasn't given them peace. They haven't got the peace of God. And he said, well, I want to find that. So I was able to tell him how he could find it. And tonight, you might be a person who wants God's peace, God's forgiveness in your life, God's hope, because, folks, you do move, and sometimes when you move with these guys you see on the telly, they only swear worse than you do. They sleep round, they shouldn't do. They've only got empty lives with loads of money. That's all they are. But when you meet Jesus Christ, He can change your life. I never read a Bible, but I read one verse. Yeah. This was it. Changed my life. John 6:37. He said, all the Father gives me will come to me. The one who comes to me, I shall never turn away. And I knew that night I'd come to Him, and He never turned me away. And since November 79, I've been totally certain I'm forgiven. And something ordinary has been made extraordinary. So every day there's hope. The last thing I'd just say to you is this. When you become a Christian, you not just get rid of all your wrong. See this pot? When I put that glaze on it, it covers the infirmity in the clay. But when you become a Christian, you don't just get your sins forgiven, you get the righteousness of Jesus on your life. So you're as good as Jesus Christ in the eyes of God the Father. That is really good stuff. Because that means God can't look upon my sin anymore. I can be let off. Last thing to tell you before we have a little cup of tea is this. Way back in 1966, right, in June, there was a football match in London, and the West Germans came second. Do you remember that? All right, and a man called Bobby Chelsea Moore, that was his middle name, Chelsea, picked up the Jules Rimet trophy, which was 10 inches tall, golden, and he waved it, and Nobby Stiles danced on the pitch and had no teeth in, and Bobby Charlton cried with his brother Big Jack, because they'd won the World Cup. They interviewed Bobby Moore and they said this to him, interesting, listen to it on YouTube. They said, Bobby, when you climbed the steps to pick up the trophy, what was going through your head? And this is what he said. He said, if you watch the pictures, as I climbed the steps and turned this way to go to the Queen, he said, I realised she was wearing pure white silk gloves and I was filthy. He says, you'll see what I do. I wipe my hands on the platform and then on the back of my white shorts. And he said, because I didn't want to meet Her Majesty dirty. Don't meet Jesus unforgiven. He can let you off, give you peace and give you hope. Thank you for listening. Now I'm just going to lift this once more, then we'll call it shakedown. Okay, so I've got it high, but if I want it to be bulbous shape, now what I'm going to do now is, I'm just going to push my fingers in, but I'm going to gently go through the wall like this. So in go my fingers, and I press outwards, and you see it change shape. And then what I like to do is make it more square at the top. Over. I'll move that again for you, so getting in the way that one. That shows you about that one. And in terms of handles, to make a handle, we pull clay. I'll use my fingers. We pull clay, so it looks like a wristwatch without a watch. So it's a strap, yeah. And then we leave it. We can air dry it and make it speed up quick. And then we bend it so it's just ready to bend. We'll pop it on the side there. So that's how you make a handle, you pop it on. Alright, any other questions? You're all happy there?
Have you always had such a steady hand?
Well, the steadiness is your feet, you see. So when I stand here, you probably can't see this, my feet go wide. And then this elbow goes into my rib cage. And that gives me the stability I need. Okay, so I can do that with my eyes shut and keep it really steady. But a lot of people, they attend to this, their arms are out here and their body's in here somewhere, and they've nowhere to balance on. So steadiness comes with how you present yourself to the wheel. So there's water in the middle still. I'll just use this. Okay, and it's up to me if I want to decorate, but I certainly want to cut underneath, so again I might use a tool like this. I'm just going to cut underneath there. And what I do is I do clay days in school, so sometimes a junior school, a primary school wants a clay day, we go and it's good because at dinner time the teachers come on and have a go, which they seem to want to do, that's good. And this has been a stage where I decorate the outside of the pot, so I might just go like this. And you know, it's up to you how you want to decorate it, it's nice. Now, when I do those lines on there, it's not just for decoration. This is a really hard question. If you get this right, I am very, very impressed, right? So give me another reason why I might put lines around there. So one's decoration, what's the next reason? I'll tell you, when you dip your pot in milkshake, if it's got lines round your pot, the glaze will break. Have you seen those little sticks that children have and you break them and all the colours light up? It's like that. So when you put lines round the pot, these are quite flat on here, it breaks the glaze and all the colours in the glaze come out, so you get a more colourful pot. That's another reason why we do lines round the pot. There we go. Okay, I'll just do one more for you, like a jug. There's some people like to see jugs.